Let me just say, Senator Capito, how much I appreciate your work on this. I want to thank your staff. This has been very much a team effort, and I want to thank the majority staff as well. One is sitting to my right, the other is sitting to my left, but they're really a team, and I'm proud of that teamwork, and we're stronger together. I want to ask a question, if I can, Mr. Shaw, if I can. My staff just handed me some information about a Norfolk Southern train that we heard about just a little bit ago today. Derailed in Calhoun County, Alabama. There are 30 train cars on the train. All were empty. Fortunately, the local sheriff has reported there are no injuries, there are no property damage. And so that's a good news, bad news story. But I spent a lot of my life in the Navy and airplanes and thought a lot about safety. And my wife worked for DuPont for many years, and she was very much involved with safety companies. You may know, and she thought a great deal about safety. When you look, and I might have this wrong, but we had the disaster at East Palestine around February 3rd. We had Springfield, Ohio, beginning of this month, Cleveland, Ohio, where one of your employees' lives was lost, and now the incident in Calhoun County. I understand the National Transportation Safety Board is going to be examining the safety culture of Norfolk Southern, and you probably welcome that. And if I were in your shoes, I would. But it's more than disconcerting; it's concerning, and it's a trend that is troubling to me, and my guess is troubling to you as well. So I hope that it'll get the kind of serious attention that it needs. When I was walking into the hearing, I was asked by the press, I'm sure Senator Capito was what we hope to accomplish here. And I mentioned I had several questions that I wanted to see answers. One of those, what went wrong? How did this all happen at East Palestine? How did it happen? What went wrong? What are we doing to help the families whose lives have been upended and in any number of ways? And the other question that I mentioned coming into the hearing was, how can we reduce the likelihood that similar disasters like this will happen again in Ohio or Pennsylvania or Delaware or West Virginia? How can we reduce that? I've said forever, everything I do, I know I can do better. Everything I do, I know I can do. I think that's true of all of us. And if you actually go back to the Constitution of our country, and the preamble of the Constitution, it says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. It doesn't say to form a perfect union. It says a more perfect union. And the expectation all those years ago and still today is for us to do better as we go forward. I have a printed statement here. I'm going to read this as well and then close off, which is one more comment straight from my heart. But in closing, I want to thank our witnesses for your time and testimony today. I want to thank our colleagues who came and testified before us today, and those that are working in a bipartisan way on legislation to help address these concerns. I especially want to thank a ranking member for what has truly been a bipartisan hearing. People around the country who thinks we never work together here, we don't accomplish anything, cooperate on anything, they'd be pleasantly surprised if they could be in this room with us most of the year. That's the way we work together and we get a lot done. But today's hearing provided some much needed answers for the American people. We've learned more about what happened the days and weeks after the Norfolk Southern train derailment and subsequent release of chemicals. We've also learned that EPA and its state partners were on the ground within hours and still there today. We've heard from local officials that Norfolk Southern poorly communicated with them initially, and that created mistrust in the community, at least initially. And one of the things I'm concerned about, I'm not a big fan. I said, Mr. Shaw, yes, no answers. That's not usually my style. But I didn't think we heard as many unequivocal yeses as I might like to have, and we might want to revisit that at another time. This doesn't help to alleviate the community's mistrust, but I'm relieved to hear the testimony regarding the safety of air and water and the attentiveness of federal, state, and and local responders. And I hope the community feels that they've gotten some answers today. And I'll say this again, we stand with the people. We stand with the people of East Palestine and surrounding communities. And I commit, and I know I speak for this Senator Capito, commit to behold Norfolk Southern Street to the fire to make sure that this community is made whole. There's clearly a lot more to discuss on with respect to safety for rail and hazardous materials, and I expect the Commerce Committee will pursue these questions in the next few days in their own hearing on this topic. I think it was Bill Gates who once said, it's fine to celebrate success, but it's more important to heed the lessons of failure. Think about that. It's fine to celebrate this success, but it's also important to heed the lessons of failure. And in this circumstance, I believe we must heed the lessons we learned today about this disaster. American lives and livelihood depend on that. If we're smart, and if we'll put our differences aside and work together to support the impacted communities in collaboration, and collaborate on policies that will ensure an accident like this doesn't happen again. Before we address, I need to do a little bit of housekeeping, and I just ask unanimous consent to submit into the record some materials related to today's hearing. They include the letter from the governor of Pennsylvania, who I talked with over the weekend, and I referenced that in that letter earlier, but articles and also independent analyses related to the accident. Senators are going to be allowed to submit written questions, we call them QFRs, questions for the record, through the close of business on Thursday, March 23rd. And we'll compile those questions and send them to our witnesses, to all of you. And we'll ask that you reply by Thursday, April the 6th. Last thing I want to say, my mother was a deeply religious woman. She would drag my sister and me to church in West Virginia, where we were born, and we're drag us to church every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, and every Thursday night. And she wanted to make sure that we understood the difference between right and wrong. We embraced Matthew 24, the least of these. When I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, went on and on. But she was really big on the golden rule. And she'd like to say, she never used the word default, like when you're not sure what to do, default to the golden rule. But that's what I do. And it can never go wrong. You can never go wrong. And in a situation like this, we've got to just put ourselves in the shoes of the people in East Palestine and other places around the country when they are similarly scared, have their lives changed, their livelihoods diminished, the value of their homes diminished. We just got to put ourselves in the shoes of those people and do it over and over and over again. And if we do that, at the end of the day, we'll have done our jobs and actually done the right thing, which we talked about here quite a bit. And the last thing, I used the word a bit earlier, empower. Empower. One of the things I say a whole lot is if you give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. If you teach a person to fish, they can feed themselves for a lifetime. I always thought that was in the Bible. I've quoted it a million times and did it about a year ago, and I was giving a speech. And after it was over, a preacher came up to me and he said, "Senator, that's not in the Bible." Well, I said, well, it should be. Well, it ought to be. There's, and in addition to making sure people have a place to live and we clean up the water and everything, the idea of empowering people to help themselves. And that's what people want. They want to be empowered. And there's a lot of ways. We all have a hand in doing that. And I pledge that that's going to be part of our focus on this committee going forward. And again, to a guy who used to ride the train a lot, Albert Einstein used to ride the train a lot on the Northeast Corridor 100 years ago. And again, he did say more than a few times, in adversity lies opportunity. Lots of adversity here. Lots of adversity here. But we're not without opportunity as well. I think with your help and the folks that you represent, we're going to come close to realizing that opportunity. And if we do, the people in these communities that have been more than just disadvantaged, but really subjected to a terrible episode in their lives. But at the end of the day, I hope they'll say, well, they must have read the golden rule somewhere because they've come through for us. With that, I think I already mentioned the questions for the records, I think. So with that, it's a wrap. We're done. Thank you very much. A lot more to be done. A lot more to be done. But thank you for your participation today.